Hello, hello. Welcome back to another episode of the Weekly Edit. My name is Antoinette, and I am a life coach for autism parents, and I am here to make things easier for you. Now, I don't know if you've been listening to what's happening in my life right now. We just moved house. That's why everything is different. And the lighting in here, which is my office, is not great. And the reason why is because there is no light in this office. I don't know. I can't explain it. So I've got spotlights going on and a very dark surrounding. Anyway, so today I want to talk about the fact that you may be complicating your life right now. And it's because of the way we think about our problems. The way you think about your problem makes it so much bigger and more confusing and a lot harder to solve. So when we feel a problem is complicated, what do we usually do? Perhaps we freeze or we overthink it. We maybe spin in confusion. We explain, we justify, we create a ton of reasons why this problem can't be solved. And then the result is we just stop taking action. And this is what complication does. Complicated problems create confusion. And confusion creates inaction. And inaction, as we know, creates a hell of a lot more problems. And we look at our lives and we go, why does this feel so hard? It feels hard because we're trying to solve fog. And you can't solve fog. You can only solve what you are willing to see clearly. And I want to help you simplify that. And I'm not talking about minimizing or pretending and saying it's fine when it's clearly not fine. I just mean let's simplify problems. Strip down the problem down to what it truly is. Because once the problem becomes clear, the solution becomes so much simpler. And once the solution becomes simpler, then you can act. For example, you might say, my mornings are a disaster. But what does disaster actually mean? Does it mean that your kiddo refused to get dressed? Does it mean that you shouted, you lost your cool? Does it mean that you were running late? Or that there was a meltdown, or you didn't wake up in time, or that the lunch bag wasn't packed? My mornings are a disaster. Sounds very factual, but it's not a clean fact. It's just a story. Now, I want you to stay with me here. The story of my mornings are a disaster may be creating a lot more overwhelm than the actual morning. Now, I'm not saying that the morning was easy. I'm just saying that you need to know what the actual problem is. Because my mornings are a disaster doesn't have a solution, but the lunchbox that wasn't packed, that has a solution. My kiddo struggled with the transition from pajamas to school clothes. That has a solution. I wake up and immediately I'm scrolling, which makes me late. That has a solution. I am expecting myself to be calm when I'm really tired. That has a solution. So, do you see the difference? The complicated version traps you. The simplified version gives you something to hold on to because our lives can be very full. Like right now, I mentioned that we have just moved house and there are boxes everywhere. Lord knows why we have so many boxes, but we do. There is painting to be done, there's maintenance to be done, there's clutter to put away. But then there's also school and work appointments, my calls, and forms to fill in to change addresses. And then there is also still having to take my son to school. And then meals and sleep times and behaviors and communicating with your partner and marriage or your relationship with your partner, then money issues, then your dreams as well, and your body that's exhausted, your nervous system, your identity. When all that gets thrown into one big basket, your brain is going to say, of course, this is just too much. Then what we do is we shut down, we become frantic, or even we start blaming. We blame the school because they haven't sorted out the form for the transport yet. We blame our partner because they were supposed to do the kitchen first. We blame the medical system because they aren't picking up the phone. We blame our kiddo because we want them to be regulated and they're not. We blame ourselves. We blame moving. And none of that creates clear action. Now, blame might feel really powerful in the moment. It feels like a little bit of relief sometimes, but it usually just leaves us exhausted and empty-handed. Responsibility, on the other hand, gives us our hands back, basically. Taking responsibility doesn't mean taking blame. It doesn't mean that everything is your fault. It also doesn't mean that the schools don't need to be better, that the systems don't need to be better, that our kiddos' needs aren't real. Taking responsibility simply means I am willing to look at what's going on right now and what can I do from here. And that is leadership. So it could look like, let's just slow down for a second. This is what I'm having to tell myself. Let me look at the facts. Let me separate what happened from the story that I'm telling. Let me find the next clear action. And that is how we simplify. So here are 4 steps. Step 1, explore the problem with questions, because I don't think we ask ourselves enough clean questions. We usually just make declarations like, this is impossible. I can't do this. I never get a break. No one helps me. I can't manage. This isn't going to change. Those sentences feel very true when you're tired, but they don't solve anything. But when you ask yourself questions, questions open the door. So, what exactly happened? When did it start? What was the trigger? What did I do next? What did my child need? What did I need? What was in my control? What was not in my control? What is the smallest part of this that I can influence, that I can do something about? Questions create space. Step 2, separate the facts from your thoughts about what's happening. And this is where so much of the freedom lives. A fact is clean. A fact has no drama to it. A fact can be proven. It hasn't have any adjectives. My child cried for 20 minutes. That is a fact. My child ruined the whole evening. That is a story. That's a thought. The school sent me an email is a fact. The school doesn't care about us is a thought. I had 3 hours of broken sleep last night is a fact. I cannot cope with my life is a thought. Now, your thoughts may feel so believable, but when we treat thoughts as facts, we lose the power. Facts are just neutral. Thoughts are where the emotional storm lives. Okay, step 3, be radically honest without excuses. This is the part that we want to skip because once we simplify the problem, we can't hide inside that problem anymore. I don't have time for exercise. May become, I am using the first 40 minutes to scroll on my phone. Maybe you're saying, I feel disconnected from myself. May become, I have not made space for anything that nourishes me. I have no support may become I have not clearly asked for what I need, what I need. My kiddo's behavior controls the whole house may become I do not yet have a plan for how I'm going to regulate myself when my child is dysregulated. So, this is not about blaming yourself. This is about telling the truth in the way that gives you options. Excuses feel very protective, but they often become cages with velvet cushions. They make us comfortable, so comfortable that we stay stuck. Okay, step 4, take full responsibility for the next action. Not responsibility for everything, like we just moved into the house. We can't do everything in a week. Don't take responsibility for all of it. Not responsibility for every outcome. Just the one next action. This box in front of me, this school run, this dysregulation, this action in front of me right now. What is the next clean step? Maybe packing the school bag at night, or maybe it's putting your phone in another room before you go to bed. Maybe it's asking your partner to do something specific. Maybe it's emailing the school with 3 clear bullet points. Maybe it's creating just a 5-minute transition routine. Maybe it's deciding that your life matters to you. The next action isn't a dramatic thing. It's usually just a small little thing. But small, clean actions repeated again and again change the atmosphere. It changes what you are doing. There's so many parents that miss this power, and it's so small, but the result is so big. They're looking for a big solution, the one answer to fix everything, the one breakthrough, the one perfect thing. But often the next level of your life is just what is that simple question that you can ask yourself? What is the actual problem and what is my next action? Simple. But it takes courage to simplify because complications let us keep circling the same problems over and over again. Simplicity asks us, let's take a path. It asks us to make a decision. It asks us, what are we going to do next? And so that is why the brain loves complication, because as long as the problem is complicated and it's big, we don't have a reason to move. We can keep saying, I don't know. I don't know what to do. I don't know where to start. I don't know how to fix this. I don't know why this keeps happening. But often, I don't know is a hiding place. So when I started coaching, when your coach asked you a question in the beginning, when my coach asked me a question and I said, I don't know, she said, never ever say you don't know because it just closes off your brain. You always say to yourself, if I did know, what would I do? And that just opens your brain to new solutions. So you were made to lead your life, not to hide. So this week, choose one problem, only one, not your whole life, not your entire future, one problem. And write it down in a complicated way first. Like my evenings are chaos. And you can add a whole story to it. I have no time, I'm exhausted, my kiddo doesn't listen, my marriage feels off. I'm not consistent, I feel stuck, and then ask, what are the facts? And what are my thoughts about those facts? And where am I making this more complicated? What excuses am I attached to? What am I willing to take responsibility for? And what is the next simple action? And then go take that action, just that one small step. And that's how you build self-trust. This is how you reduce overwhelm. This is how you stop living as if everything is happening to you. You become the person who can just take a breath, you can simplify the problem, you can decide, and you can move forward. Okay, so the edit for this week. Stop solving the complicated version of your life. Simplify the problem, find the facts, take responsibility, and choose the next action. Because our lives are full, absolutely yes. And it may be demanding and it may be crazy and it may include needs that other families just don't understand. But it doesn't have to be as complicated in your mind as it currently feels. And when you simplify what's in your mind, you create room for that calm, for that steadiness, for that leadership. You create room for your kid. You create room for your life. All right, my friends, and that is what I have for you today. So please come and join me in the private Facebook group, and then we can continue our discussions on complicated problems. I'd love to know what your problems are. Let's talk about them. Let's sort them out. Let's make them simple. All right, my friends, till next week. Bye bye.